Today's unscheduled project is a repair of this union. This union right here connects the chlorinator to our saltwater pool, and there's one on either side. The idea is that you can take this chlorinator off and clean it up or put a cap on during the winter time, but it's made so that it can be taken apart. Well, whether it was ice during the freeze last February or just, being old, it cracked. And so you can't put torque on it to get it really good seal. There's a piece of little rubber O-ring in here that mashes together. So what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna take this thing out and see if we can replace it with some standard hardware from Home Depot, or if not, I'll have to go to Leslie's or somewhere and buy some pool equipment. The trick here is this piece, this shank right here, is glued on to a piece of 2-inch pipe, which then is connected to a T. This is a T right here. So I don't want to have to replace this entire manifold just to replace this one piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my vibrating, or what I call the irritating saw, and I'm going to remove this piece and then recycle the pipe that's underneath here, sand it down so that it can receive another piece, and that way I won't have to do that much more work. So let's get started on this. First thing to do is take this thing off. I'm going to go ahead and cut that, and we'll get to the hardware store and see if they have any parts that are less expensive. See, this is going to be one of those projects where one task turns into more tasks. I don't know if you can see in there. I'm going to have to descale the inside of this chlorinator. It's pretty clogged up. So I have some acid for that, and I have a routine for that. We'll run through that too. A better look at that connector. You can see there's a little O-ring right here that I'm going to have to salvage, but we'll put some lubricant on that, some of that O-ring lubricant, and that'll be good to go. But you can see inside here there's a piece of PVC that is glued in to the inside of this. So we're going to cut this open right here all the way down to that PVC, and then I'm going to spread it open and get the glue to give up its connection to that, and then we'll clean all that up so that it can accept a new piece. Okay, so there's the cap off. You can see I just went through here. I used my my vibrating saw. These are really nifty. Unlike a Dremel, which you might be tempted to use, the Dremel has only a round surface. So when you get into the corners and in places where you need to not touch things, it's harder to work with the Dremel because you can't get into little square parts. But in this case, you can slide these right up to the corner or something, and they will cut right up in there. Also, they're a lot less dangerous. Dremels, when you use the cutting discs on those, they tend to shatter. And in this case, you can just beat these things up. They work on wood and metal and PVC, and they just vibrate really quick, and they irritate. If anything, they irritate it, and they melt the material to the point where you can get it out without doing too much damage. All right, so as is so often with some of these unplanned projects, things go unplanned. You see here I was pulling away the old shank, and it chipped. And not only did it chip, but it went into the T-piece. So I think I may have to end up pulling this T-piece out as well. If I can get a good breakaway from this side right here, I won't have to continue going. But the advantage is this 1.5 inch pipe here is a nice long section, so I can put a union in the middle and it won't be a big problem. I won't have to worry about sacrificing or salvaging any of this. I can just cut that away and put a reducer in. But the initial plan didn't quite go as to plan, so I ended up cutting this off, and I wanted to see the damage, but I think I'm going to have to take this T off and replace this T and then get a reducer. So good thing I didn't go to the hardware store already. Let's see if I can get this one off without any damage. I think that the difference in materials from the black stuff, here's pieces of the black thing, the union is a little more brittle, and this being sun parched, I think that this was probably a little brittle on its own. So I think I might have better luck with this this connection right here. So I'll be a little more careful. I'm going to tear this T apart and cut it off back here, and then we'll continue. Let's see if I can get any better luck with that one. All right, so to try to be a little more careful from prevent myself from cracking, overstressing any of the materials, I went ahead and I cut slots into the pieces I was taking it apart. You can see having it really close to another union here makes it really easy to pry up. And you just get a screwdriver underneath that and that piece will come out. This is a wood chisel. But anyway, you can see that that puts a lot less stress on the materials. It doesn't ask it to pull anything else weird apart, and I think that's the best way to do that. So we're going to come away with a really nice clean surface here. I'm going to sand all the old glue off and put the new T in right there. So can you use a standard adapter on one of these Pentairs? This is the size for the Pentair. And if you want to answer that question, here's one I bought at Leslie's. That's kind of a standard one. You can see this is easily 1/8 of an inch smaller. So no, Pentair has a proprietary thread size. That's unfortunate. Good people at Pinchy Penny Pool, they have these right on the shelf. Part number 520595, Unions replacement for the Intellichlor chlorinator. These come in a pair. I only need one. So imagine I'll put the other one up on sale for eBay. If anybody wants to buy this other one, I'll put it up there for you. So let's go ahead and dry fit everything and lay it out before we start gluing and make sure everything's going to fit. All right, so here you go. I got everything all mocked up. Everything's kind of loosely laid in place. You can see this piece right here. I've measured the distance for the union that has to go in there. You can cut these a little short because a union will take up quite a space. That's not a problem. But the trick here in this case is the angle that T needs to be oriented in order to marry up with that piece. So what I've done is I've drawn some lines that are register marks so that when I get ready to put that in there, I'll be able to slide that into place and everything will fit just fine. So all I got to do now is clean up this surface here and cut this right here for the union, install the union on one other end of the other, and then get ready to slide this T in. I think what I'll do is I'll put the T onto the union first, and then it'll be able to flop around a little bit, and I'll be able to slide it into here, and everything will be all kosher. The next thing that needs to happen is the distance between this and this needs to be correct. And so you can see I've already measured some distances in here, how this will slide in. I measured the distance to the inside here, and I made a register mark for where that's going to go, and test fit this to the inside. That's where it's going to go once we get a little glue on it and we slide it in. That's where it's going to go to. And then this baby will slide in right in between the two. Whoops. Here we go. It'll slide right in there, connect in here with a little O-ring, and then the little O-ring goes in the groove, and then this end slides right in like that. So let's get to gluing. So the glue that I like to use is this the yellow. A lot of times you see a lot of the stuff is all blue, the blue glue. The blue and the purple, those are two-step. They require that you clean the pipe and then you prime it with the purple and then you put the blue on it. It just makes it an extra step that you don't have to go through. This yellow all-weather one-step PVC cement is really good because you just put the yellow on and it's done. You don't have to worry about doing the extra steps. You do need to make sure before you glue things up that there are no burrs around the edge, There's no debris, dirt, or water on the surface that you're going to glue. But that's about it. This stuff really works really well. When you use these other ones, you have to deal with primer, and I don't like to deal with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue this up, and we'll check in as I progress from one step to the next. All right. So I'll do one of these connections so you can see how it works. Put this in the frame. So you can see there's the yellow glue. It's got a little wand on it. All you need to do is put the glue around the outside and make sure that you get a nice liberal application all the way around. There we go, a lot of goo. And you put it on one end, and then you go to the surface that you're going to apply. This is the union here. And you do the same thing on the inside. Make sure there's no debris or anything in there. And you just glue, put all kind of glue in there. Always cover that. And then you just slide that baby on, and you give it a little turn as you go. There we go. And you get a nice tight fit. All right. Nice. All right, moving on. Here we go. See, I got my registration marks matched up. I got my union and my T. This T is a 2-inch to a 1.5 reducer, so I don't have to worry about adding reducer. The old one had a reducer in there. But just connect that with the union, and then the T is all in there, ready to go. All I do now is install the end piece of the ic40 union, and to do that we're going to put a small piece of 2-inch pipe into the T, and then get it ready to go into that small piece. Will go into the joiner, or the coupler. And when this is done, it'll look like that. It'll be closed all together, and you won't see from one to the next. So you won't see that piece of 2-inch pipe. It'll be just like the rest of the manifold, one piece after the other, after the other, after the other. But each of those little unions, they have a little piece of 2-inch pipe in there. So let's get that going, and then we'll check back in. So there you go. If all your math came out right, this thing should be able to screw in. When you go to put this coupling on, make sure that you have the sleeve on before you do that. Here, let me show you. So yeah, make sure that you have this on before you put this in place, because this little lip right here is going to catch on the back side here, and that's how this tightener works. It screws against that. This should be freewheeling. Make sure that you don't get any kind of glue on here or any of these grooves right here. It should all be free and clear so that this can rotate well when it goes on there. When you're dealing with it, take the O-ring off. You don't want that to get damaged by any of the glue. While this glue, as a matter of fact, while it's setting, there's still some in there. Wait for that to completely dry up before you finish sealing. While it's doing that, we're going to go on to another little step here, and I'm going to clean all that. I don't know if you can see. There's all that scale on the inside of those. So there'll be a little extra bonus thing that I'm going to add on this little video about how to descale your Intellichlor ic40. It's an ic40. All right, moving on. So you want to mix up your muriatic acid with a 1 to 4. So only you want a quarter of this gallon of acid for your mixture. So what you do is, dump it in the pool. So with 3/4 of it in the pool, now I'm just going to fill the rest back up with water. That's going to be my solution for descaling the ic40. So I'm just going to fill that back up with some water. A little bit more. There we go. That feels like a good gallon. All right, let's go prep the ic40 for an acid wash. This thing, so first thing I want to do is I'll put it on service mode. Oops. There we go. That's in service mode. So now I just need to find the plug for your ic40 and just unplug this thing. There you go, a couple of screws, off it comes. There's the connection. That's what it looks like. All right, so what you need to do, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to wash acid through these plates. These plates are special composite, and they create chlorine from the salt water that goes through the pool when it's activated with electricity. And it picks up calcium. That's what these deposits are on here. And the calcium degrades its ability to create chlorine. So you have to maintain it. Now, if you put too much acid in there, you'll degrade the plates and they'll wear out too soon. And obviously if you don't do any, then they're not going to work at all. So it's kind of a trick. This unit has one side that's kind of flat with a grill on it, and then one side that is, this is the outbound side, and it has kind of an insert, and the way that you need to do this is we're going to dump some acid in it and let it soak a little, and then we're going to dump the acid out. So you have to close off one end. They make, Pentair makes a product that you can screw on here, and it's a cap with a real rubber grommet on there, a little rubber O-ring. It's 40 bucks. I'll put it in the description. I don't have one of those. What I use is an expanding ring. I got this at the Home Depot for, I don't know, $5-6 bucks. So you just put that in there. I've added some goofy rubber bands around it to increase the diameter, and you just put that in there and you tighten it up, and it does exactly everything that you need it to do for a whole lot less. I'm not condoning this, but I'm saying there's an alternative to spending 40 bucks for something as easy as closing a hole. So I'm going to close this up and we'll get to pouring some acid in here. I got a couple of other videos where I'm playing with acid. I really recommend that you use some protective equipment anytime you're dealing with acid. Even if you're careful, it bubbles and it gurgles and it splashes and it's very caustic. It'll hurt you. Make sure that you have access to water in case you have a splash and need to get it off of you. There's a pool just a little ways from me here. And wear some protective equipment. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take that mixture that we just made, that 1 to 4 muriatic acid mixture, and we're going to dump it into here. And we're only going to let it set until it's done reacting. If you let it set for too long, then you'll degrade the plates. So what's going to happen, you're going to expect some gurgling, some bubbles, and that's all expected. You want to let that soak for about 10 minutes, and then empty the acid off into the bucket here, and we're going to put that acid in the pool. And then we're going to hose it down with a hose and make sure that there's no residual acid just sitting inside there. So that's the goal. Let's get started with this. See a little smoke coming out, hear a little hissing. There's some bubbling going on. See all kinds of debris coming off of that. Doing a good job getting all that debris out of there and cleaning up all that calcium. Alright, so it's been about 10 minutes. The activity has reduced quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to tip this thing over and we're going to rinse it in the opposite direction of flow. Okay, so we're going to put that upside down. We're going to take off our goofy little hillbilly trick here. This thing will untighten pretty easily, I think. There we go. All right. One thing we're sacrificing on this, a couple of rubber bands. They're going to be really easy to replace. And it works really well. All right, so I have a hose charged here and a fine jet. You can see already it's all nice and clean in there. We're going to go ahead and rinse this out. Nothing left in there. All right, that'll do it. Now I just need to take all this acid and put it in a pool. Get everything all cleaned up. Okay, home stretch here. We're getting ready to put the O-rings in. We're going to put that O-ring in here and get that together. While I have it apart, I'm going to pull this one out and I'm going to re-lube it. Get some good fresh lube in there. We got a new basket to put in, yay. The reason why you put this lube on your O-rings anytime you're doing an O-ring is, when you tighten the O-ring, the torque kind of puts some torsion on it and it will spin it, and it might, if you don't have a little lubrication in there, it might bind up on it. Also, you're only supposed to tighten these finger tight, so you don't want to put a whole lot of torque on them to begin with, so you need a little bit of lube in there to help get a good seal. The third reason why you need to put that in there is obviously there's a pool here. You got salt water and chlorine depending on which end of the unit that you're on. It's a lot of caustic, very lightly caustic, but it adds up and rubber will degrade. And once you start sucking air into the pool system, the vacuum will reduce the flow. Air compresses at a much higher volume than water, so when you start just a couple little seeps of air, then the flow of the water will be greatly decreased and your pump will become less efficient. So you really need to manage any kind of air leaks in your system. So I'm going to go ahead and start lubing this up, and then once I get that together, we'll do the final installation. Alright, so I got some lube on those O-rings and they're all sitting in there. I've got these loosened up. I just wanted a really quick mention. I also put some lubrication on these threads. Obviously, if you can only go hand tight, you want to make sure hand tight makes a difference. And so having a little lubrication on there will make sure that you get a good compression on those O-rings. Alright, last little consideration is this flow. Make sure that you have this pointing in the right direction when you put that in there. This side of the ic40 has a flow meter that once it's going fast enough, the little flapper valve closes and it will turn itself on. It won't generate any chlorine if it's flowing in the wrong direction. So that's it, hand tight. Got the flow in the right place. I'm going to go ahead and connect it back to the wire at the control unit there, and we'll be good to go. So this has been some pipe refitting and replacement of a coupler and acid washing of a Pentair Intellichlor model ic40. I hope this was helpful. If you were here for MGB videos or car restoration stuff, never fear. Next week I have a whole bunch of parts coming from Moss, and we'll be installing the bumpers, hopefully, on the MG. So stay tuned, and please, if you have any better information about what I just completed today, any contribution that you can add to the video would be greatly appreciated. Please like and subscribe and share with your friends.